per KC Johnson, we have an update as far as Karnisovas really focusing on the Zach LaVine trade. And reportedly, he may not be looking to move any other members of the roster right now. We're going to talk about that all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, make sure you guys are following the channel at Bulls Central Pod. And you guys know we're the number one spot. When news drops, we drop. And so we got an update coming from KC Johnson over at NBC Sports Chicago, in which he wrote an article as far as AK and kind of the Zach LaVine trade. And where it seems like right now is that direct quote from the article says, Karnisovas is responding to inquiries on other players by saying he wants to see what the roster looks like post-LaVine trade first. So, again, for anyone who's still kind of holding out hope, and me and Pat and other people have been telling you guys, the Zach LaVine trade is happening. It's happening. It is what it is. It doesn't seem to be anything that can happen that's going to avoid the Zach LaVine trade that's going down. But the thing that's kind of concerning in there that some Bulls fans may take concerns with is that AK is not taking calls on any other player on the roster. Keep in mind, we've heard that Patrick Williams, Alex Caruso, even Andre Drummond are receiving considerable trade interest from other teams, looking to add them to teams that are trying to go on playoff runs. The fact that AK is once again kind of not taking any calls or just telling people, hey, we're going to wait to see what this Zach LaVine trade yields us back, it's kind of understandable in a sense, right? I'm going to talk about it from both standpoints. In one area, I can understand wanting to see what the return you get back for Zach LaVine is, because as I've been saying, that is going to kind of maybe point towards the direction of where this roster is going to go. If it is a lot of, draft picks, future picks, assets, things like that, if they get a really nice young piece now that they look at can add to this core, you may look to keep some of those veteran pieces around. Not all of them, but some of them. But the thing that what the Bulls are risking, their AK's risking by turning down all deals right now is that teams may go other places. As soon as December 15th opens up and veterans that have signed deals this offseason can be traded, you may lose some of that trademark. And now there aren't typically a lot of trades that go down in December. Usually you get closer to the end of January. So that kind of is that timeline I'm thinking. You're not going to see Zach LaVine traded until probably, I know everybody keep talking about this December 15th date, but I think it's going to be more towards mid-January to the end of January before you see that. That's going to give the Bulls another couple of weeks to kind of maneuver any other players that they want to move, but that's a risk. Other teams could fill up voids by then, and so some of those teams that are interested in the Carusos and the Drummonds and the Patrick Williams, which I still doubt the trade, the interest out from Patrick Williams, other than teams just thinking they're going to be able to scoop in there and get him pretty easily and for a low amount. It really comes down to AK not taking any calls and just saying they're going to wait, right? And that's what it seems like this front office has continually been in the state in since this front office has taken over. They're always waiting on something, right? Other than that first offseason when they came in, they made that trade for Nikola Vucevic, things like that. Well, they still kind of waited at the start of the season. They wanted to evaluate the young talent. That's understandable for a new front office that's come. And then Lonzo Ball went down, and then they were waiting for Lonzo Ball to come back. They noticed he wasn't. They signed Pat Bev, and then, other things going on, waiting to see if the team is going to, all of a sudden, the shot profile is going to change and these other buzzwords that we've heard, but it all has led back to this. The inaction by this front office has left many fans frustrated, and I'm not going to be surprised if fans hear this and now say, hey, what are we doing here? If we're not going to go full, which I've been telling you guys, a full blow-up is probably not happening. If AK is willing to wait to even talk deals on other players, that would kind of point to he's hoping that he's going to pull out a deal that they can still do some level of trying to make the playoffs or do something then or try to win some games. That lack of being able to commit to being bad for 2 to 3 years may end up being what's the undoing of this front office ultimately, but we'll see. But as of right now, from what we're hearing is that the Chicago Bulls are making the choice to not be active, to not take any calls, and to tell people we're waiting to see what Zach LaVine yields us in a return before we get back. I don't think it's this huge negative either. I know some fans are going to take that. They're going to be triggered. They're going to, think that that's a sign that we're going to be fairly inactive again. But it kind of makes sense. That's your biggest trade piece. That's your biggest trade domino to fall. And you want to see what you get back with that before you go on and move some other pieces that you could end up regret moving later on down the road, right? So we'll end up seeing what happens with that. It could also add some more flexibility if the Bulls do get, some seconds back, some first back. Maybe it opens them up on what they want to do in other deals. So, that's the kind of thing to look out for. We'll see what ends up happening, but let me know what you guys think down below. When you hear that AK is not taking any calls on any other players that teams are interested in until he gets the Zach LaVine trade done, is that a positive or is that a negative in your opinion? Let me know all that down below. Otherwise, make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.